The night starts to fall out. The ambient atmosphere of midnight covers everything. Lean back, relax, slide down your eyelids, and listen to a streak of stories I'm about to tell. If you actually love this content for your good sleep, please subscribe to support our channel and don't hesitate to like this video. We really appreciate that. Chapter 1: The Man Who Discovered America, the true story of the 1492 Voyage. In the late 15th century, Europe was filled with tales of distant lands and undiscovered treasures. A man named Christopher Columbus, living in Spain, believed that by sailing west across the Atlantic Ocean, he could reach Asia and find wonderful riches. With the support of the King and Queen of Spain, Columbus set out with 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, carrying a crew of brave sailors. The journey was difficult and uncertain. For weeks, they sailed over vast oceans, seeing nothing but endless water around them. Storms rocked the ships. Food supplies ran low, and the men grew tired and fearful. But Columbus' determination never wavered. Finally, on October 12, 1492, they sighted land, a new world unknown to Europeans until then. These were islands in the Caribbean Sea, Europe's first glimpse of the Americas. Columbus and his crew explored several islands, met indigenous people, and recorded many fascinating discoveries. Though his voyage brought great change, it also led to complex and often difficult encounters between Europeans and native population. Columbus' journey opened the door to a new age of exploration, connecting the world in ways never before imagined. The story of this man, who dared to dream and take action, remains a testament to human curiosity and the spirit of discovery. Chapter 2: The Mysterious Disappearance of the Merchant Ship Mary Celeste. In November 1872, the merchant ship Mary Celeste left the port of New York, heading across the Atlantic Ocean towards Italy. On board was a crew of 10, along with Captain Benjamin Briggs and his family. They carried a valuable cargo of industrial alcohol. The journey began smoothly, but the fate of the ship soon became one of the greatest maritime mysteries ever recorded. About a month later, another ship named the Glacier spotted the Mary Celeste drifting aimlessly near the Azores Islands. To their shock, the ship was completely abandoned. No crew, no signs of struggle, just an eerie silence. The ship itself was in good condition. The sails were partly full, and the lifeboat was missing. The cargo was mostly untouched, and personal belongings were left behind. The ship's log showed no indication of danger before the abandonment. Where had the crew gone? Why had they left a perfectly seaworthy vessel? Over the years, many theories have been suggested. Some thought pirates or mutineers had forced the crew to flee. Others speculated about sudden storms, water sprouts, or even sea monsters. Another idea was that toxic fumes from the alcohol cargo might have caused panic, forcing the crew to abandon ship temporarily, never to return. Despite numerous investigations and endless speculation, no definitive answer was ever found. The disappearance of the Mary Celestes crew remains one of the ocean's most haunting mysteries. It reminds us of the vast, unpredictable nature of the sea and how sometimes the truth lies just beyond our reach. Chapter 3: The 100 Years' War, a century of conflict between England and France. The 100 Years' War was a long and turbulent conflict that shaped the history of medieval Europe. It began in 1837, when England and France clashed over claims to French throne and control of lands. The war stretched on for more than a century, not as a single battle, but as a series of conflicts, truces, and uneasy peace. Kings and knights, armies and peasants all were drawn into the struggle that changed the fate of nations. Early in the war, the English won notable victories. The Battle of Crecy in 1846 was one such moment where English archers and their longbows defeated a much larger French army. A few years later, at the Battle of Poitiers in 1356, the English captured the French king, bringing turmoil to France. Yet, the war was far from over. France slowly regained strength and territory, rallying under inspiring leaders like Joan of Arc, a young peasant woman who claimed to hear divine voices guiding her. Joan's courage helped lift the siege of Orleans in 1429, a turning point in the war. She became a symbol of hope and resistance, though her life was tragically cut short. The conflict finally ended in 1453, with France's victories and England losing most of its French lands. The 100 Years' War left deep marks on both countries, reshaping politics, society, and warfare. It was a time of heroism and hardship, of change and endurance. The echoes of this long war remind us of the complex forces that shape history and the human stories within. Chapter 4: The Misty Town and the Shadows of the 17th Century. In the 17th century, there was a small coastal town in Scotland, often wrapped in thick, mysterious mist. The fog would roll in from the sea every evening, cloaking the streets and buildings in a soft gray blanket. But with the mist came strange shadows. Villagers whispered about fleeting figures, silhouettes that seemed to move just beyond sight, disappearing whenever someone tried to look directly. Some said that shadows were spirits of sailors lost at sea, forever wandering the town. Others believed they were guardians, watching silently over the people. No one could say for certain. By day, the town bustled with fishermen, merchants, and children playing by the docks, By night, the mist and shadows gave the town a quiet, haunting beauty, a place suspended between reality and mystery. To this day, the story of the misty town and its elusive shadow is softly told, like a secret carried on the sea breeze. Chapter 5: The Strange Night of 1600, when the moon disappeared. In the year 1600, across many villages and towns throughout Europe, something extraordinary and unsettling took place. One quiet evening, as the sun set and people prepared for night, they looked up to the sky, but the moon was nowhere to be seen. The familiar glowing orb that had guided travelers and comforted sleepers was suddenly gone, swallowed by an inexplicable darkness. At first, some thought it was simply a cloudy night, but the sky remained clear and starless where the moon should have shone. The nights grew deeper, darker, and more silent than anyone could remember. People lit more candles and fires, seeking comfort in the warmth and light. But many found themselves staring into the void above, puzzled and uneasy. Whispers began to spread from village to village, tales of an ominous sign, a warning from the heavens. Some believed the missing moon foretold great changes or disasters to come. Others spoke to mysterious forces, perhaps celestial beings, hiding the moon for reasons unknown. For 3 long nights, the sky remained moonless. Stories were shared around hearth fires as families huddled together, hoping for the return of their silent companion. Finally, on the 4th night, the moon reappeared, shining softly, bathing the earth in gentle silver light once more. Its return was met with relief and quiet celebration, yet the memory of those dark nights lingered in the hearts and minds of the people. Generations later, the strange disappearance of the moon in 1600 remains a whispered mystery, a gentle reminder of how the natural world can surprise us and how even the familiar can become an enigma. Chapter 6: The Mysterious Whispers Beneath the Palace of Versailles. Beneath the grand and majestic palace of Versailles lies a hidden and mysterious world largely unknown to visitors. Long ago, during the palace construction in the 17th century, a network of secret tunnels and passageways was built beneath the grounds. These tunnels wind and twist beneath the marble halls, dark and silent. At night, when the palace quiets and the guests have long gone, some say faint whispers begin to echo through the shadows. No one can say for sure where the voices come from or who speaks in the darkness. Some believe these whispers are the echoes of courtiers long past, their spirits wandering restlessly through the underground maze. Others think The whispers carry secrets, stories of intrigue, love, and betrayal, waiting to be discovered by those patient enough to listen. Even the guards who patrol the palace grounds report a gentle feeling of unease near certain tunnels entrances, as if the very stones hold their breath. Despite many attempts to explore and understand these mysterious sounds, the whispers remain an enigma, adding to the palace's timeless charm. Today, the palace stands as a symbol of beauty and power, but beneath its elegant surface lies a quiet world of secrets waiting to be heard. Chapter 7: The Mysterious Travelers of the 17th Century Cities. In the bustling cities of the 17th century, where markets overflowed with goods and streets thronged with people, there existed a group of travelers unlike any others. They moved silently, blending into the ground, their faces often hidden beneath cloaks and hats. No one knew their names or origins. They carried with them strange packages, wrapped in faded cloth, tied with delicate strings, and letters sealed with an unfamiliar stamp. These travelers appeared suddenly, delivering messages and goods, then vanished just as quietly, leaving behind only whispered rumors. Some said they were merchants from distant lands, bringing exotic spices and rare artifacts. Others believed they were secret messengers, carrying news and commands between nobles and rulers. Stories grew around them of secret meetings in shadowed alleyways, of coded messages passed beneath the flicker of gas lamps, and of journeys that spanned continents. Despite their mystery, they played a vital role in the lifeblood of the cities, weaving connection unseen by most. To this day, the tales of these enigmatic travelers remind us of the hidden threads in history, the silent figures whose stories remain just beyond reach. Chapter 8: The Black Death, Europe's Great Plague of the 14th Century. In the mid-14th century, Europe was forever changed by one of the deadliest pandemics in human history, the Black Death. Originating far away in Asia, the plague traveled along the Silk Road, carried by fleas, living on rats that boarded ships and caravans. By the early 1840s, the disease had reached Europe's bustling ports and cities, spreading rapidly through crowded streets and marketplaces. The symptoms were terrifying. Victims would develop painful swelling, called buboes, often in the groin and armpits, along with fever, chills, and exhaustion. The disease was swift and merciless. Many died within days in falling ill. As the plague swept through towns and villages, the death toll grew devastatingly high. Some regions lost nearly half their population. The impact was profound. streets emptied as people fled or fell ill, markets closed, and the rhythm of daily life was shattered. The doctors and healers were baffled, lacking knowledge of germs or how the disease spread. Many treatments were ineffective or harmful. Communities mourned countless loved ones. Families were torn apart. Fear and superstition spread alongside the disease. Some blamed the stars. Others believed it was a punishment from God. Scapegoats were found, leading to tragic persecutions. Yet, despite the darkness, humanity endured. Over time, the plague subsided, and survivors will rebuild their life. The Black Death reshaped Europe socially, economically, and culturally. It altered the course of history in ways still felt today. The Great Plague is a solemn reminder of life fragility, the mysteries of nature, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Chapter 9: The Blood Red Sun, a medieval mystery of 1577. In that year, across much of Europe, people witnessed a strange and unsettling sight in the sky, a blood-red sun. This eerie phenomenon was seen from the bustling streets of London to the quiet villages of Germany and the grand city of Italy. At a time when superstition and faith shaped everyday life, the sight of the sun turning red stirred fear and wonder. Astronomers and scholars, such as famed Danish astronomer Tycho Brahe, observed and recorded the event. Brahe noted the unusual color and shape of the sun, describing it as a great red orb that seemed to glow with an otherworldly light. But for ordinary people, the blood-red sun was a terrifying omen. Many believed it was a warning from God, a sign of coming war, plague, or divine punishment. Church bells toned, sermons preached about repentance, and communities prepare for disaster. In the historical records, chroniclers wrote about the panic and the mysterious phenomenon that seemed to paint the very sky with blood. While modern science explains the blood-red sun as a result of atmospheric dust and smoke scattering sunlight, the medieval experience remains a powerful reminder of how nature and belief intertwine. The blood-red sun of 1577 left a mark on the minds and hearts of those who lived through it, blending mystery, fear, and awe into one unforgettable event. Chapter 10: The Mysterious Typhoon of 1281. How a storm saved Japan. In the summer of 1281, the vast Mongol Empire, led by Kublai Khan, launched one of the largest naval invasions in history. The target was Japan, a small island nation known for its fierce warriors and broad culture. The Mongols assembled a massive fleet of over 4,000 ships, carrying tens of thousands of soldiers, sailors, and supplies. This enormous armada set sail from Korea and China, aiming to conquer Japan and expand the empire's reach. The Japanese, aware of the threat, prepared to defend their homeland with courage and determination. Two separate fleets approached Japan's shores, intending to join forces for a final assault. But nature had other plans. As the fleets gathered near the island of Kyushu in late August, a powerful typhoon formed over the Pacific Ocean. The storm, later called the kamikaze or divine wind, unleashed fierce winds and towering waves. It battered the Mongol ships relentlessly, destroying much of the fleet and scattering survivors across the sea. Many ships were wrecked against rocky shores, and countless lives were lost in the chaos. This devastating storm stopped the Mongol invasion and preserved Japan's independence. The Japanese believed the typhoon was a divine gift sent by the gods to protect their land. Historians today recognize the typhoon as a natural disaster, but acknowledge to its crucial role in shaping Japanese history. The tale of the divine wind remains a powerful symbol of hope and resilience, reminding us how nature can change the course of human events. Chapter 11. The mysterious disappearance of the Roanoke colony. In 1587, a group of English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. Led by Governor John White, their hope was to build a new life in the New World, a place filled with opportunity and promise. The settlers faced a harsh and unfamiliar land. Dense forests, strange animals, and the vast Atlantic Ocean surrounded them. Life was difficult. Food was scarce, the weather unpredictable, and relation with the local Native American tribes uncertain. Shortly after the colony was established, John White returned to England to gather more supplies and support. He promised to return swiftly, but events back home delayed him far longer than expected. England was embroiled in war with Spain, and naval resources were focused elsewhere. 3 long years passed, leaving the colony isolated and vulnerable. When John White finally sailed back in 1590, the sight that greeted him was shocking. The entire settlement was deserted. Homes stood empty, crops unharvested, and no sign of struggle or battle. The only clue was the word "Groschen" carved into a post, and the letter "Grow" etched on a nearby tree. White searched nearby islands, including Groschen Islands, home to a friendly Native American tribe, but the settlers were nowhere to be found. Over the centuries, many theories have been proposed. Some believe the colonists were killed or captured by the hostile tribes. Others suggest they may have integrated with local tribes to survive. Some even wonder if they attempted to sail back to England and were lost at the sea. Despite centuries of research, archaeological digs, and speculation, the fate of the lost colony remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. It stands as a haunting reminder of the challenges of uncertainties faced by early explorers. The story of Roanoke invites us to ponder the resilience of human spirit and the mystery that still lie hidden in history. Chapter 12: The Mystery of Pompeii, the city frozen in time. In the year 79 AD, the ancient Roman city of Pompeii flourished under the looming presence of Mount Vesuvius, a powerful and reckless volcano in southern Italy. Pompeii was a bustling city filled with markets, temples, theaters, and vibrant streets where merchants, families, and citizens went about their life daily. The people of Pompeii enjoyed art, culture, and commerce, living much like any thriving city today. But on one fateful day in August, their world changed forever. Mount Vesuvius erupted with unimaginable force, sending clouds of ash, pumice, and poisonous gases high into the sky. The eruption lasted for hours, blanketing the city in thick layers of volcanic material. Many residents tried to flee, but the eruption was sudden and overwhelming. Trapped beneath the heavy ash, Pompeii was buried and lost to history for over 1,500 years. In the 18th century, archaeologists began uncovering the city, revealing an extraordinary snapshot of Roman life frozen in time. Houses, streets, and public buildings were remarkably preserved, along with detailed frescoes and mosaics. One of the most haunting discoveries were the casts of victims, people caught in their final moments, preserved by hardened ash. These casts capture expression of fear, despair, and stillness, reminding us of the fragility of life in the face of nature's power. Pompeii's story is both tragic and fascinating, a city paused in a moment of disaster, yet offering a vivid window into the past. It teaches us about the resilience of human civilization, the force of nature, and the timeless connection between life and death. Today, Pompeii stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, inviting visitors to walk the ancient streets and reflect on this remarkable tale of survival and loss. Chapter 13: The Peasants' Revolt of 1381, a fight for justice and freedom. In the late 14th century, England was a land struggling with social and economic upheaval. The devastating Black Death had reduced the population drastically, but the surviving peasants faced heavier burdens. The ruling class, desperate to fund ongoing wars in France, imposed harsh taxes on the poor. Among these was the infamous poll tax, a flat tax levied on every adult, regardless of income. For the peasants and laborers already living at the edge of survival, this tax was unbearable. Resentment and anger simmered beneath the surface, fueled by years of oppression and hardship. In 1381, this frustration exploded into open rebellion. Led by a charismatic and fearless man named Wat Tyler, thousands of peasants, artisans, and workers marched toward London. They carried simple banners and makeshift weapons, united in their demand for fair treatment and an end to the serfdom. The rebels stormed the streets, breaking into noble estates and churches, seeking to dismantle and the oppressive system. King Richard II, then just a teenager, faced the daunting task of confronting the uprising. In a historic meeting at Smithfield, the young king promised to meet the rebels' demands, hoping to quell the unrest. But the peace was fragile. During further negotiation, Wat Tyler was killed in a violent confrontation. With their leader gone, the revolt quickly lost momentum and was brutally suppressed. Though the immediate rebellion failed, its impact was profound. The peasant revolt challenged the medieval social order and planted seeds for future reforms. It remains a powerful symbol of courage, unity, and the enduring human desire for justice and freedom. Today, we remember the revolt as a landmark moment when ordinary people dared to stand against injustice and demand change. Chapter 14. Marco Polo's epic journey, a Venetian tale of discovery. In the late 13th century, Europe was a world of kingdoms and knights, but also a place filled with curiosity about the unknown. A young Venetian merchant named Marco Polo embarked on an extraordinary journey that would change the way Europeans viewed the world. At the age of 17, Marco set out with his father and uncle on a voyage to the faraway land of China, ruled by the powerful Mongol Empire under Kublai Khan. Their journey took them along the legendary Silk Road, a network of ancient trade routes stretching thousands of miles across deserts, mountains, and vast plains. They crossed harsh landscapes, the scorching sands of the Gobi Desert, and the towering peaks of the Pamir Mountains. Throughout their travels, Marco encounters diverse peoples, languages, and cultures unlike anything he had ever known. He marveled at the grandeur of Mongol court, with its golden palaces, grand ceremonies, and elaborate customs. Marco Polo soon became a trusted envoy and advisor to Kublai Khan, traveling across the empire on missions of great importance. His experiences, including seeing vast cities with bustling markets, innovative technology, and extraordinary works of art. After nearly 24 years away, Marco returned to Venice, bringing with him tales that seemed almost unbelievable. He shared his adventures with a writer who helped him record his stories in a book titled The Travels of Marco Polo. Though some readers doubted the truth of his tales, his book inspired generations of explorers, including Christopher Columbus. Marco Polo's journey reminds us of the power of curiosity, courage, and the desire to discover what lies beyond the horizon. His story continues to inspire those who dream of exploring the unknown and connecting distant worlds. Chapter 15. The Vikings' Voyage to North America. Leif Erikson, The Lost Land of Vinland. Long before Christopher Columbus set sail across the Atlantic, a group of brave Viking explorers journeyed far beyond their northern homelands. Around the year 1000 AD, Leif Erikson, son of the famous Eric the Red, led a daring expedition from Greenland toward unknown shores. For weeks, these fearless seafarers battled icy seas, fierce storms, and uncharted waters. Finally, they sighted land, a lush, green territory rich with forests, rivers, and abundant wildlife. They named this new land Vinland, believed to be somewhere along the northeastern coast of what is now Canada. The Vikings established a small settlement, building sturdy wooden homes and forging connection with the land. They hunted wild game, fished in the rivers, and gathered berries and plants for food. Though their settlement was temporary, the Vikings' voyage to Vinland marked the first known European exploration of North America. Their stories were passed down through generations in Norse sagas, inspiring awe and curiosity. For centuries, Vinland's existence was debated and thought to be mere legend. It wasn't until archaeological discoveries in the 1960s, such as the site at Lons Meadows in Newfoundland, that proof of Viking presence in North America was confirmed. The tale of Leif Erikson and his crew speaks to the courage, curiosity, and determination that drive humanity to explore the unknown. It reminds us that history is often more complex and surprising than the stories we commonly hear. Today, Finland stands as a testament to the Vikings' adventurous spirit and their role in connecting distant worlds long before Columbus. Chapter 16: The First Crusade, A Journey to the Holy Land. In the late 11th century, Europe was a land of kingdoms, knights, and religious fervor. The city of Jerusalem, sacred to Christians, Muslims, and Jews alike, had long been under Muslim control. Pope Urban II, moved by Blias from the Byzantine Empire and inspired by a desire to reclaim the Holy Land, called for a crusade in 1095. His call to arms echoed across Europe, a holy mission to free Jerusalem and aid fellow Christians in the East. Thousands of knights, nobles, and common folk took up the cross, pledging to journey thousands of miles to the Levant. The journey was perilous, filled with the harsh landscapes, unfamiliar climates, and constant threat from enemy forces. The Crusaders traveled in waves, some poorly organized and ill-prepared, others more disciplined and well-armed. Despite internal conflicts and hardships, they pressed on toward their goal. In 1099, after a grueling siege, the Crusaders captured Jerusalem. The victory was both a triumph and a tragedy, marked by brutal battles and harsh treatment of the city inhabitants. The First Crusade reshaped the political and religious landscape of the region. It led to the establishment of Crusader states and sparked further campaigns that would last for centuries. Though the motives and methods of the Crusaders remain complex and often controversial, their journey remains one of the most remarkable chapters in medieval history. The First Crusade is a story of faith, warfare, and the enduring human spirit facing immense challenges in pursuit of cause greater than themselves. Chapter 17. The Assassination of Thomas Becket, A Glass of Power and Fate. In the 12th century, England was a kingdom torn between the power of the monarchy and the authority of the church. Thomas Becket, once a close friend and a chancellor, King Henry II, was appointed Archbishop of Canterbury in 1162. What followed was a dramatic transformation. Becket, now a devoted servant of the church, found himself in conflict with the king over the rights and privileges of the church. Their struggle became a fierce battle between royal power and religious authority. Becket stood firm, refusing to allow the king to control the church, courts, or clergy. Tensions escalated, and the once close friends became bitter enemies. On December 29, 1170, Becket was murdered inside Canterbury Cathedral by knights loyal to King Henry II. The killing shocked the nation and the Christian world. Becket was quickly declared a martyr of saint, and his tomb became a site of pilgrimage. The assassination marked a turning point in the relationship between the church and the monarchy in England. It demonstrated the limits of royal power and the enduring influence of religious authority. Thomas Becket's story is a powerful reminder of the complex dance between faith, politics, and power. It echoes through history as a tale of conviction, betrayal, and the fight for justice. Chapter 18. The Fall of Constantinople, the End of an Era. In the spring of 1453, the ancient city of Constantinople stood as the last stronghold of the Byzantine Empire. For over 1,000 years, this magnificent city had been a center of culture, religion, and power. Its massive walls and strategic location made it one of the most formidable cities in the world. But the rise of the Ottoman Empire, led by Sultan Mehmed II, threatened to change history forever. Determined to conquer Constantinople to expand his empire, Sultan Mehmed assembled a vast and powerful army. For weeks, the Ottomans laid siege the city, using massive cannons and innovative tactics to break through the ancient walls. The defenders, led by Emperor Constantine IX, fought bravely but were vastly outnumbered. As the siege wore on, food and supplies dwindled, and hope began to fade within the city walls. On May 29, 1453, after a final fierce assault, Ottoman forces breached the city's defenses. Constantinople fell, marking the end of the Byzantine Empire and a pivotal moment of world history. The city was renamed Istanbul and became the new capital of the Ottoman Empire. The fall of Constantinople also had profound effects on Europe, spurring exploration and the search for new trade routes. It symbolized the close of the medieval era and the dawn of a new age. The story of Constantinople's fall is one of courage, innovation, and the unstoppable forces of change. It reminds us that even the greatest civilization can face moments of transformation and renewal. Chapter 19. The Mystery of the Princess in the Tower, the Lost Heirs of England. In the late 15th century, England was torn apart by a series of dynastic conflicts known as the Wars of the Roses. The struggle for the throne between the houses of Lancaster and York had plunged the kingdom into chaos. At the center of this turbulent time were two young princes, Edward V and his younger brother Richard, Duke of York. Their father, King Edward IV, had died suddenly in April 1483, leaving the throne to his eldest son, Edward V, who was just 12 years old. With the king's death, the young prince's uncle Richard, Duke of Gloucester, was named protector of the realm, entrusted with safeguarding the kingdom and his nephews. Edward V and Richard were taken to the Tower of London, a fortress and royal residence in the heart of the city. But the tower, meant to protect, soon became a place of misery and fear. Within weeks, the two princes disappeared from public view. Rumors and whispers filled the courts. The boys had vanished, perhaps murdered. Many suspected Richard of Gloucester, who soon declared himself King Richard III. His swift claim to the throne raised suspicions about his role in the prince's fate. The details remain murky, lost to shadows of history. Some theories suggest the princes were killed to remove any threat to Richard's reign. Others proposed that they might have been secretly hidden or escaped. Archaeological searches in the tower and historical investigation have yet to uncover definitive answers. The mystery of the princess in the tower has inspired countless books, plays, debates, including Shakespeare's famous portrayal. Their disappearance is a haunting reminder of the deadly games of power and ambition in medieval England. The lost prince symbolized innocence caught in the crossfire of politics and the fragile nature of royal succession. Though centuries have passed and the fate of Edward V and his brother Richard remains one of history's most enduring enigmas, their history continues to captivate our imagination and remind us of the human cost behind the pursuit of power. Chapter 20. The Great Fire of London, a city reborn from ashes. In the early morning of September 2nd, 1666, a small fire broke out in a bakery of Pudding Lane. Fueled by dried timber, buildings, and strong winds, the fire quickly spread through the narrow streets of London. The city was largely made of wood, making it a tinderbox waiting to ignite. For 4 terrifying days, the flames raged uncontrollably, consuming homes, shops, and churches. Thousands of people were forced to flee, leaving behind their possessions and memories. The fire reached the grand St. Paul's Cathedral, an iconic symbol of London, before finally being brought under control. Though not official death toll was recorded, the impact on the city and its people was profound. The Great Fire destroyed nearly 13,000 buildings, reshaping the city's skyline and infrastructure. In the aftermath, London underwent a massive rebuilding effort with new building regulation and fire safety measures. Architects like Sir Christopher Wren designed beautiful stone structures that still stand today. The fire reminded the people of London of the fragility of their city and the resilience needed to rebuild. From the ashes, London rose stronger, shaping its future as a great global metropolis. The Great Fire of London remains a powerful story of disaster, survival, and renewal. Chapter 21: The Voyages of Zhang He, the admiral who connected the ancient world. In the early 14th, the Ming dynasty of China was at the height of its power and influence. Emperor Yongle commissioned a grand fleet to explore the seas and establish ties with faraway kingdoms. Admiral Zhang He, an adjusted eunuch and skilled navigator, was chosen to lead this ambitious mission. Commanding a fleet of hundreds of ships, including massive treasure ships, Zhang He set sail from the port of Nanjing. For over 2 decades, his voyages carried envoys, gifts, and goods to ports across Southeast Asia, India, the Arabian Peninsula, and East Africa. Zhang He ships were marvels of engineering, some longer than modern-day football fields. His expeditions brought spices, silks, and precious metals back to China, while also spreading Chinese culture and influence abroad. Despite the grandeur of these voyages, history would later forget much of Zhang He's legacy due to political changes. Yet, his journeys remain a testament to human curiosity, diplomacy, and the power of exploration. Zhang He's stories remind us of a time when cultures connected through the seas, long before the age of discovery. Chapter 22: The Magna Carta, the birth of modern rights. In the early 13th century, England was ruled by King John, a monarch whose reign was marked by conflict, heavy taxation, and political turmoil. King John's military failures in France and his disputes with the church had alienated many of his subjects, especially the powerful barons. These barons, wealthy landowners with their own armies, grew increasingly frustrated with the king's arbitrary rule and excessive demands. Their anger reached a boiling point, leading to open rebellion in 1215. Facing the threat of civil war, King John was forced to negotiate with the barons to avoid complete collapse. The negotiations took place at Runnymede, the meadow by the river Thames, where the king agreed to a historic document, the Magna Carta, or Great Charter. This charter was not just a peace treaty. It was a groundbreaking statement limiting royal authority and affirming certain legal protections. Among its key provisions were the right to fair trial, protection against unlawful imprisonment, and limits of taxation without consent. The Magna Carta also established the principle that the king was not above the law. While initially intended to address the grievances of the barons, the Magna Carta's ideas resonate far beyond their immediate context. Over the centuries, it influenced the development of the constitutional law and the idea of government by consent. It laid the foundation for modern concepts of democracy, justice, and human rights. Despite King John's later attempts to annul the charter, its legacy endured. The Magna Carta became a symbol of the struggle for freedom and the rule of law. Today, it stands as a powerful reminder that even those in power must be held accountable. Its story teaches us the importance of balancing authority with justice and the enduring quest for liberty. Chapter 23. The Battle of Agincourt triumphed against the odds. In October 1415, the English army, led by King Henry V, faced a daunting challenge. Outnumbered and exhausted after a long campaign, they met the French forces at Agincourt and in northern France. The battlefield was narrow and muddy, conditions that favored the lightly and armed English archers over the heavily armored French knights. King Henry V inspired his troops with courage and resolve. Using longbows, the English archers unleashed volleys of arrows that pierced through the French ranks. Despite their smaller numbers, the English forces overwhelmed the French, turning the tide of the battle. The victory of Agincourt was not just a military triumph, but a symbol of English resilience and strategy. It boosted morale and had lasting effects on the course of the 100 Years' War. The battle remained a testament to how determination and clever tactics can overcome great odds. King Henry V's leadership and the bravery of his soldiers continue to be remembered as a defining movement of medieval warfare. Chapter 24. The Medieval Spring Festival, Traditions and Beliefs. In the Middle Ages, life was deeply connected to the cycles of nature and the changing seasons. For rural communities, spring was a time of renewal, hope, and celebration. Each year, as winter thawed and the earth began to bloom, villagers gathered to honor the arrival of spring with festivals rich in symbolism and traditions. One of the most cherished celebrations was the May Day Festival, centered around the maypole, a tall wooden pole decorated with vibrant flowers and ribbons. Dancing around the maypole was more than just entertainment. It was a ritual believed to encourage fertility in the fields, animals, and people. The ribbons, woven intricately by young villagers, symbolized the intertwining of life and community. Singers and musicians filled the air with joyous tunes, while traditional games brought laughter and unity. These festivals also included prayers and offerings to protect the village from evil spirits and disease, reflecting the spiritual worldview of the time. Though the specifics of the celebrations varied from village to village, the underlying themes of renewal, protection, and community were universal. The medieval Spring Festival reminds us of the human's desire to connect with nature and each other, seeking blessings for survival and prosperity. It is a testament to resilience and hope in the face of life's uncertainties. Even today, echoes of this ancient tradition can be seen in modern spring celebrations around the world. Chapter 25: Medieval Guilds, the backbone of craft and community. In the bustling towns and cities of medieval Europe, guilds were the lifeblood of economic and social life. These organizations, made of craftsmen and merchants, regulated trade and ensured that quality and standards were maintained in their professions. Guilds existed for nearly every trade imaginable, from blacksmiths forging tools and weapons to weavers creating intricate fabrics, and to bakers supplying bread for the community. Becoming a guild member was a rigorous process, often beginning as an apprentice learning to craft under a watchful eye of a master. After years of training, apprentices could become journeymen, traveling to hone their skills before eventually becoming masters themselves. Eligible to open their own workshops and take on apprentices. Guilds controlled who could practice a trade within a town, preventing outsiders from undercutting prices or selling inferior goods. This system helped protect the livelihood of their members and ensured that customers received quality products. Beyond economics, guilds were also social institutions. Guild halls served as gathering places for meetings, celebrations, religious observation, and even charitable activities. Members supported one another in times of illness, death, or financial hardships, fostering a strong sense of community. Guilds played a significant role in medieval urban life, influencing politics, culture, and social order. Many of today's professional organizations and trade unions trace their origins to the medieval guild system. Understanding guilds offers a window into our daily lives, ambitions, and values of ordinary people in the Middle Ages. It reminds us that community and craftsmanship have always been intertwined in the human story. Chapter 26: The Dancing Plague of 1518, when Strasbourg danced without end. In the summer of 1518, the city of Strasbourg, then part of the Holy Roman Empire, was gripped by a strange and baffling event. It began with a single woman, named Frau Trophia, who stepped into the streets and started dancing uncontrollably. At first, people thought it was a harmless act of joy or celebration. But days passed, and she continued to dance without rest. Soon, others began to join her. Dozens, then hundreds of residents were caught up in the same mysterious dance. They danced in the street, in homes, and even in the towns were unable to stop. Despite exhaustion, cramps, and injuries, the dancers seemed compelled to keep moving. Local authorities were perplexed and concerned. In an effort to help, they called in musicians to play music, hoping the dancers would recover by dancing it out. However, This only encouraged more people to join the frenzy. The dancing continued for weeks, and some dancers collapsed from heart attacks, strokes, or sheer exhaustion. The reasons behind this phenomenon remain a mystery to this day. Some experts believe it was a case of mass hysteria, a psychological response to extreme stress, fear, or hardship. Others suggest it may have been caused by ergot poisoning, a toxic mold that grows on rye and can induce hallucinations and convulsions. There are also theories linking to the plague to religious fervor or superstition prevalent at the time. Whatever the cause, the dancing plague of 1518 remains one of history's most curious and unsettling events. It serves as a reminder to the complex relationship between mind and body, and how human behavior can sometimes be driven by forces beyond understanding. Today, the story of Strasbourg's dancers lives on as a fascinating chapter in the annals of medieval history, a dance that never truly ended until the exhaustion and fear finally took hold. Chapter 27. A Day in a 15th Century English Village. The day begins early. Just as the church bell rings at dawn, villagers wake up to the soft light of morning and prepare for a day of hard work. Men head to the fields carrying simple tools like hoes, sickles, and wooden blows. Depending on the season, they plant seeds, tend growing crops, or harvest wheat and barley. Their work is tiring but essential to ensure enough food for the village. Women stay near the home, caring for the household. They prepare simple meals of dark bread, cheese, and fresh vegetables gathered from gardens. They also take care of animals, such as chickens and goats, which provide eggs and milk for the family. Some women spin wool and weave cloth, helping to make clothes for the household. At midday, villagers pause to eat a light meal, often outdoors or if the weather is good. Afterward, some visit the nearby market to trade goods or buy necessary tools. The blacksmith is especially important, repairing farming tools and making horse shoes. He also shares news from other villages, such as updates about wars, taxes, or disease outbreaks. In the late afternoon, people gather at the village church for prayer and community events. Religious festivals like Christmas and Easter bring everyone together to celebrate with music, dancing, and food. These moments of joy provide relief from the daily hardships. Life in the village is not easy. Harsh weather, poor harvests, and diseases like the plague threaten their survival. Yet, the villagers remain strong through faith and a sense of community. Their hard work and resilience help preserve their traditions and build a lasting life despite challenges. Chapter 28. The Custom of Hanami, Cherry Blossom Viewing in Feudal Japan. In feudal Japan, during the 15th and 16th centuries, one of the most cherished customs was Hanami, the tradition of viewing cherry blossoms. Every spring, when the cherry trees bloomed with delicate pink and white flowers, people from all walks of life gathered to celebrate the fleeting beauty of nature. Hanami was not just a simple picnic, it was a spiritual and social event. Samurai, warriors, Parents, poets, and nobles alike would come together under the blooming trees. They spread mats on the ground, shared food and sake, and composed poetry inspired by the blossoms. The cherry blossom symbolized the transient nature of life, beautiful but short-lived. This idea was deeply rooted in the Japanese philosophy of mono no aware, an appreciation of the impermanence of all things. During Hanami, people reflected on the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. The festivities often included music played on traditional instruments like the samisen and flute. Storytelling and dancing added to the joyful atmosphere. Even the shogun and his court participated, demonstrating that Hanami was a unifying custom across social classes. Hanami also served practical purpose. It was a time for villagers to relax after the hard winter months and prepare mentally for the coming agricultural season. The gathering strengthened community bonds and offered a moment of peace amid the challenges of feudal life. Today, Hanami remains a beloved tradition in Japan, connecting modern society to its rich cultural past. Chapter 29: The Origin of La Tomatina, the Tomato Fight Festival in Spain. In a small town called Bunon, Spain, a unique and lively tradition has its roots in events dating back to the 15th and 16th centuries, though the modern Tomato Fight Festival, known as La Tomatina, officially began in the mid-20th century. Many historians believe that its origins are connected to medieval celebrations and local custom. Back then, villagers would gather to celebrate annual festivals involving food and playful fights, often related to harvest times or religious feasts. It is said that a tomato fight first broke out spontaneously during one such festival when a market dispute escalated, leading people to throw tomatoes at each other in a moment of fun and chaos. Over time, this playful conflict became a beloved tradition, symbolizing community spirit, joy, and letting go of daily worries. Today, La Tomatina attracts thousands of visitors who come from Bunon every August to participate in the world's biggest tomato fight, continuing the legacy of festive mischief, though that exact details are lost in history. The spirit of fun and celebration that La Tomatina embodies reflects that lively and communal nature of many medieval European festivals. Chapter 30: The Festival of Holi, the colorful celebration in medieval India. Holi, known as the Festival of Colors, is one of the most vibrant and joyful traditions in India, with roots tracing back to medieval times. Celebrated in late winter or early spring, Holi marks the arrival of spring and the victory of good over evil. During Holi, people from villages and cities gather in open spaces to playfully throw colored powders and water to each other. This act of spreading colors symbolizes the breaking down of social barriers, uniting people of all ages, castes, and backgrounds in celebrations. The festivals also includes singing, dancing, and sharing festive foods like sweets made from milk and sugar. Holi's origins are linked to ancient Hindu legends, particularly the story of Prahlad and Holika, which teaches lessons about devotion and the triumph of righteousness. In medieval India, Holi was not only the time for merriment, but also a social equalizer, allowing people to forget their differences and enjoy communal harmony. The spirit of Holi continues today as a vibrant symbol of joy, togetherness, and cultural heritage. Chapter 31: The story of the blacksmith apprentice in 15th century Germany. In a small German village during the 15th century, there lived a young boy named Hans who dreamed of becoming a blacksmith. His village was surrounded by dense forests and fertile fields. The blacksmith workshop was at the heart of the community. Hans began his apprenticeship at the age of 12. Each day, he would wake before dawn to help the master blacksmith prepare the forge. He learned how to heat iron until it glowed red and then hammer it into tools, horseshoes, and weapons. The work was hard and hot, but Hans was determined. The blacksmith was respected by our villagers because his work kept the village running. Farmers needed plows, knights needed armor, and horses needed shoes. Hans also learned that the blacksmith was often the bearer of news, as travelers stopped by to share stories and news from distant towns. One winter, a harsh storm destroyed many of the village crops. The villagers were worried about the coming months. Hans and the blacksmith worked tirelessly, repairing tools and crafting new ones to help farmers prepare better for the next season. Their efforts gave hope to the village. Over time, Hans became skilled and took pride in his work. He realized that his role was not just about making tools, but about supporting and sustaining his whole community. The story of Hans shows the importance of trade, perseverance, and community spirit in medieval life. Chapter 32: The True Story of Joan of Arc, the Maiden of Orleans. In early 15th century France, during the 100 Years' War between France and England, a young peasant girl named Jeanne d'Arc emerged as an unlikely heroine. Born around 1412 in a small village called Domremy, Jeanne grew up hearing stories of war and hardship as English forces occupied large parts of France. From a young age, Jeanne claimed to have visions of saints who instructed her to help save France. Despite her humble origins, she convinced the local commander to allow her to lead an army to lift the siege of Orleans, a city crucial to French resistance. In 1429, at just 17 years old, Jeanne dressed in an armor and inspired the French troops with her courage and faith. Against the odds, the siege was lifted, marking a turning point in the war. Her leadership boosted the morale of French forces and helped Charles VII to be crowned king. However, Jeanne's success was short-lived. She was captured by English allied forces in 14 30, put on trial for heresy and accused of witchcraft. Despite her bravery, she was convicted and burned at the stake in 1431 at about 19 years old. Joan of Arc's story became legendary, symbolizing courage, faith, and the fight for justice. She was later canonized as a saint and remains an enduring figure in history, showing how an ordinary person from a small village changed the course of a nation. Chapter 33: The Peasant Revolt of 1881, a true story of courage and struggle. In the 14th century, England was struggling to recover from the devastating effect of the Black Death, which had wiped out large portions of the population. The economy was in turmoil, and to compensate for loss in revenue, the king and nobles imposed heavy taxes on the peasants. By 1881, frustration had reached at the breaking point. Thousands of peasants and laborers from the eastern and southern regions of England gathered to protest against the harsh oppression. They demanded fair wages, an end to cruel feudal laws, and the abolition of unjust taxes. Leading the revolt was Storyteller, a determined and intelligent peasant. The crowd marched to London, demanding an audience with King Richard II. Though only 14 years old, the young king met with the rebels and promised to consider their demands. However, the uprising was eventually crushed with the force. Storyteller was killed, and many rebels were captured and executed. Despite the defeat, the revolt left a lasting impact, encouraging gradual changes in the rigid feudal system. The story of 1881 peasant revolt is a powerful example of ordinary people standing up for justice and rights in a time of great hardship and inequality. Chapter 34: The Life of a Medieval Baker, a true story from the 14th century. In a bustling medieval town in 14th century Europe, the bakery was one of the busiest places. Bakers were essential to daily life because bread was a staple food for nearly everyone. Peasants, merchants, and nobles alike. One such baker, named Thomas, inherited his trade from his father. Thomas would wake up in the early morning hours before dawn to prepare the dough. The bakery was a simple stone building with a large wood-fired oven that kept burning day and night. Thomas used basic ingredients: flour ground from local grain, water, yeast, and a pinch of salt. Baking bread was a hard work. Mixing, kneading, and tending the oven's fire required skill and experience. The heat from the oven made the bakery a tough place to work, especially in summer. The townspeople depended on Thomas and his fellow bakers for fresh bread every day. But life was not easy. Sometimes the grain harvest failed due to bad weather or pests, making the flour scarce and expensive. When this happened, bakers had to ration their supplies or bake poorer quality bread. Besides baking, Thomas was part of a guild, an organization that protected bakers' rights and maintained standards. The guild ensured that bakers did not cheat customers by mixing sand or other fillers into bread, which was serious offense. Thomas' life reflected the rhythms of medieval towns, long hours, reliance on community, and the challenges of uncertain harvest and strict regulation. Yet, through his work, he played an important role in feeding his community and supporting the local economy. Chapter 35: The Life of a Medieval Monk, a true story from the Middle Ages. In the heart of medieval Europe, monasteries were centers of learning, faith, and community life. Brother Anselm was a monk living in a monastery during the 12th century. His daily routine was strict but meaningful, revolving around prayer, study, and manual labor. Every day began before dawn with the ringing of monastery bell. Brother Anselm would join their monks in chanting prayers, reading scriptures, and reflecting in silence. Their faith guided every aspect of life, providing comfort amid the hardship of medieval times. Beyond prayer, Brother Anselm spent hours copying manuscripts by hand. In a world before printing presses, monks preserved knowledge by painstakingly writing books, ensuring the survival of religious texts, classical works, and scientific writings. Work in monastery also included tending gardens, brewing beer, and helping the poor who came seeking aid. The monks lived simply, sharing everything in common, and following rules established by Saint Benedict. Centuries earlier, Brother Anselm's life was challenging, filled with discipline and sacrifice, yet it was also rich with purpose and community. Monks like him played a crucial role in preserving culture and knowledge through turbulent times and laid foundation for future learning and progress. Chapter 36: The Story of Agnes, a medieval peasant woman. Agnes lived in a small village during the 14th century, a time marked by hardship and change. Like most villagers, she worked tirelessly and in the fields alongside her family, growing crops such as wheat, barley, and vegetables to feed themselves and fulfill the demands of the local lord. Her days began at dawn, tending to animals and helping with planting or harvesting, depending on the season. Life was dictated by the rhythms of nature and the agricultural calendar. Agnes also prepared food, spun wool, and mended clothes, balancing many duties within her household. In 1348, the Black Death swept through England, devastating villages and drastically reducing the population. Agnes survived, but many of her neighbors did not. The aftermath changed life dramatically. With fewer workers, peasants like Agnes found their labor in higher demand, allowing some to negotiate better wages and conditions. Despite the hardships, Agnes' story shows the resilience of ordinary people. She lived through famine, plague, and political turmoil, but continued to support her family and community. Her life reflects the struggles and strength of medieval peasants whose work sustained society through difficult times. Chapter 37: The Spiritual Life in Medieval Japan, the Role of Buddhism. During Japan's medieval period, roughly from the 12th to 16th centuries, Buddhism played a vital role in shaping the spiritual and cultural life of the people. Unlike the West, where Christianity dominated, Japanese villages and towns found meaning and comfort through Buddhist teachings and practices. One well-documented example is the pilgrimage tradition. Devotees would travel great distances to visit sacred Buddhist temples and shrines, such as those dedicated to Kannon, the goddess of mercy. These pilgrimages were not only acts of religious devotion, but also opportunities for reflection and community gathering. Daily life often involved ritual and prayers performed at home altars, where families honored ancestors and sought protection. Monks served as spiritual guides, teachers and healers, and monasteries were centers of learning and charity. During times of hardship, such as famines or wars, Buddhist teachings about impermanence and suffering helped people cope with loss and uncertainty. The concept of mono-no-aware, an appreciation of the transient nature of life, was deeply ingrained in the culture. Through festival, meditation, and communal ceremonies, medieval Japanese people nurtured a rich spiritual life that sustained them through challenges and connected them to a greater cosmic order. Chapter 38: The strange medieval festival of Uphelly A, Viking Fire Festival in Scotland. In the Shetland Island of northern Scotland, a unique and fiery festival called Uphelly AA has its roots in medieval times, tracing back to the 15th century. This festival celebrates the Viking heritage of the island, remembering the Norsemen who once settled there. Uphelly Air is famous for its dramatic torchlight processions. Participants dress as Vikings, wearing helmets, shields, and carrying axes. The highlight is the burning of a large Viking longship replica, symbolizing the end of the Yule seasons and a farewell to the old year. The festival likely began as a pagan ritual linked to the winter solstice, a time when communities gather to celebrate the return of longer days and to honor their ancestors. Over centuries, it evolved to incorporate Christian elements, but retained its fairy and communal spirit. Uphelly Air is more than just entertainment. It reflects the strong cultural identity of the Shetland people and their connection to their Viking ancestors. Despite its ancient origins, the festival continues today, attracting thousands of visitors and preserving a vivid piece of medieval heritage. Chapter 39: The Medieval Wife-Carrying Festival in Harlowton, England. During the 14th and 15th centuries, the small village of Harlowton in Lincolnshire, England, was known for a peculiar and lively tradition called the Wife-Carrying Festival, held annually on St. Martin's Day. This event was more than just a game. It was a test of strength, agility, and the bond between husband and wife. The festival began early in the morning, with villagers gathering around the village green where the course was set. The challenge required men to carry their wives through a muddy, uneven track filled with natural obstacles like ditches, small hills, and rough patches of earth. The aim was to complete the course as quickly as possible without dropping the wife or losing balance. This unusual tradition had deeper roots in rural life. It was believed to be a way to showcase the physical fitness and dedication of the men, as well as their commitment to their spouses. In a time when marriage was both a social and economic contract, such demonstration was significant in building trust and respect within the community. Apart from the race, the festival was a festive occasion filled with singing, dancing, and large bonfire. The villagers celebrated together, strengthening communal bonds through shared joy and laughter. The religious significance of Saint Martin's Day was also observed, blending spiritual reverence with folk customs. Though the original festival faded over time, the idea of wife carrying lives on in various forms worldwide, with modern competition inspired by this medieval practice. Chapter 40: The Battle of the Oranges, a true medieval festival in Ivrea, Italy. In the medieval town of Ivrea, northern Italy, every year people participate in a unique and lively festival known as the Battle of Oranges. This tradition dates back over 900 years and is said to commemorate the town's fight for freedom and from the tyrannical ruler. According to legend, a cruel lord once ruled Ivrea, demanding harsh obedience from the townspeople. One day, his wife tried to exert her power over a young miller, but he refused her advances and killed her in self-defense. This act sparked a rebellion among the people against the tyrant. To symbolize this uprising, the townspeople began the custom of throwing oranges at each other, reenacting the battle between the citizens and the Lord Guards. Today, the festival involves thousands of participants divided into teams who throw tons of oranges in the streets, creating a spectacular and chaotic scene. Despite the seemingly wild nature of the event, the Battle of the Oranges is a deeply symbolic tradition celebrating courage, resistance, and community spirit. Participants wear colorful costumes and protective gear to join the fight, while spectators cheer from the sidelines. The festival is a vivid example of how medieval history and legend continue to influence modern cultural celebrations, preserving the spirit of rebellion and unity through centuries.